Up YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, and one of the main narratives that have been brought up since the passing of Kobe Bryant, really, I would say, has really jockeyed it up, is this perception that Tracy McGrady was just one good team away from being on the level of Kobe Bryant. And honestly, this is something that I think Gilbert Arenas has popularized. Gilbert Arenas, who professes to be a Kobe fan, I think this all really started, well, it really ratcheted up when he started saying that, if you, well, first of all, he said about 20 years ago, there was a debate as to who was better between Kobe Bryant and Tracy McGrady, right? Now, he said that this was a debate that was really, really strong within the NBA community, within the NBA circles. Now, as far as NBA fans like myself are concerned, we did make those comparisons from, if you looked at it, the game from a statistical standpoint. However, when I looked at how these guys attacked the opposition, and when I looked at these guys from the eye test, I saw some differences. Okay. And the differences are when the Lakers were dealing with injuries, especially to Shaq, more often than not, I would see Kobe Bryant rise to the occasion and play as if he was the best player in the NBA. And then being kind of forced by Phil Jackson to pull it back a bit when Shaq came back or whatever. When anybody else was out, Kobe would kind of fill in the gaps. Tracy McGrady, because, Tim Duncan decided not to go there when he was a free agent in 2000 because of the devastating injury that Grant Hill suffered, which robbed him of his superstar status. Tracy was on a really, really bad team, which gave him an excuse to put up a lot of shots. I'm going to tell you another thing, too, that gets me as I'm thinking about it, right? Now, I'm going to play the audio from Kwame. Give me a second to get this out. I hear so much shit about how Wilt Chamberlain was a stat padder, right, on bad teams, which was not true. Wilt Chamberlain's teams went to the playoffs, I believe, almost every year he played, if not every year he played. I think they missed the playoffs one year. His team, the Warriors, saw a 17-game improvement his rookie year. So he improved his teams. But you never hear this for Tracy McGrady. You never hear about when he was on the Magic, he was putting up stats on a bad team. And they were an atrocious team. But you never hear that. But anyway, going further into this, man, Kwame Brown absolutely just destroyed Tracy McGrady, saying that, he was not only was he not on Kobe Bean's level, but also saying that, when they would have workouts together, Kobe made Tracy McGrady quit, which is something that, we don't hear a lot about, but, what I'm saying, that's crazy. But anyway, here's the audio.
You would get hurt in workouts. Nobody even touching your soft self. You getting hurt and cramping up and passing out in workouts. But you want to compare yourself to Kobe now that he dead. Why you ain't compare yourself to Kobe while he was alive so he could talk about some of them workouts y'all had where he'll make you quit? Why don't you talk about that? Why don't you talk about when you and Bean used to work out together? You want to call him your brother. That Bean would make you quit, would make you say uncle. And now you want to compare yourself to him now that he can't defend himself. You little crybaby. You want to rewrite history. Well, if I was, imagine Kwame Brown saying that. Well, if I was to trade places with Kenyon and went to play with Jason Kidd, where I could use my athleticism and just run and jump and dunk and then post up, I would, and not play with Gilbert Arenas, I would have been in a better position. And not play with Michael Jordan, you think I wouldn't have won? You don't get to do that, you crybaby. You not like that. You not in that status. Were you a hell of a player? Yes. Could somebody chuck you in the back and rattle you? Yes. Could they get physical with you and you quit? Yes. You had team after team and chance after chance, and you never stepped up to the plate. So it don't matter if you would have had Shaq. Shaq would have got hurt in the final, you would have got hurt right behind him. Tell the truth.
Yeah. So Kwame Brown, man, letting out the ether when it comes to Tracy McGrady. And to be honest with y'all, man, and you know, I'm just being honest. I, I look, you could see a difference between Tracy McGrady and Kobe Bryant, just in their mindsets and in their demeanors. Like Tracy came across to me as a guy who was more naturally talented than Kobe Bryant, and he's a guy that was playing. I'm not saying he didn't work hard uh, by his standards. He worked. I'm pretty sure you got to be at least somewhat of a hard worker to make it to the NBA. But there's levels to it, like Kwame said. There's levels to it, and at the end of the day, you know, Kobe Bryant worked harder. I think Kobe's probably the biggest overachiever in basketball history. Perhaps the biggest overachiever in sports history, definitely in basketball history. Um, you know, and I would actually put, and and y'all know I'm not a fan of this guy. Another guy who's a big overachiever is Tom Brady, because Tom Brady was not the most, you know, sought after talent going into the league. So those guys work hard as hell, man. You know, another guy that worked hard on his craft and on his body and making sure that he was in tip-top condition. I would put Walter Payton up there, and I would put another guy would be Jerry Rice, man. Those are some of the hardest workers dudes in sports history, and that work ethic paid off. Tracy McGrady, on the other hand, um, he was a great player, but he wasn't on the same level. And when he did get talent around him, you know, they still failed to be amongst the best teams when he got to the Houston Rockets. Now, some people like to say, oh, well, Yamin got hurt, Trace McGrady got hurt. Man, but at the end of the day, man, you barely made the playoffs, and you never got the first round when you were a real active player. That's a that's a damning condemnation against you legacy-wise when you couldn't get out of the first round. I'm sorry. Even, you know what I'm saying, players who were mild talents like a Glenn Rice or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure Glenn Rice got the first round some years. I got to go back and look at it. But yeah, in '98 when you was with Charlotte Hornets, I think they got to the second round. You got to get out of the second round at the very least, man. If Glenn Rice is doing it, my God. You know what I'm saying? If Dale Ellis is getting out of the first round, come on, man. The first round? No, man. You can't be on that level. And I'm gonna tell you something else that's been getting on my nerves too. Shaq got to make up his mind because on the one end, he'll say that Kobe Bryant deserves to be in the GOAT conversation, right? But on the other end, he'll say, "Well, I've always said that Tracy, if we switch up with Kobe, we would have still won 3 championships. You got to remember, Tracy was getting triple and double team, but Kobe was facing single coverage. Blah blah blah. Yeah. Come on, man. Which one is it? Are you a defender of Kobe's legacy, or are you a sneak diss a hater? You know what I'm saying? Which one are you? But at the end of the day, man, I agree with Kwame, man. Tracy was good, but it was a difference between the two. And it became apparent. I'll put it to you like this. Were people making comparisons between the two back in 2002, 2003, 2004? Yes. Were people making those comparisons by 2007, 2008? Not as much. No. And especially after Kobe did what he did, which is after he played with Shaq, playing with Pau Gasol, who was doing nothing but losing and underachieving with the Grizzlies, got him and made him look like goddamn a modern day Kevin McHale. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And was outplaying Kevin Garnett in 2010. A lot of that he did to, like I said, he did for Pau Gasol what Michael Jordan did for Scottie Pippen. And I can't see Tracy McGrady doing that with Pau Gasol. I can't. I can't do it. I don't see it. I would see, honestly, I think Tracy McGrady would shoot them out of games and quit and blame his teammates and move on to another team. But that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.